Spain has been the focal point for a hotbed of political intrigue in Formula One. It happened here in 1980 and it's happened here again. Amidst rumour and counter-rumour that the Spanish Grand Prix was on or off, the masters of the sport have been toing and froing from meeting to heated meeting, trying to damp the fires of a potential war between the governing body and the constructors. Happily, they succeeded, and after a morning session when 9 of the teams failed to participate, all was well for Friday qualifying. There's an air of unease and intense concern at Barcelona as Formula One fights to overcome the tragic problems which have affected it in recent weeks and which have emerged here again. There's no easy fix in a high-tech sport involving long design, construction and testing timescales, but everyone is doing their best in a situation where there's no clear-cut answer. For instance, the newly formed Grand Prix Drivers Association asked for and got a new chicane to slow their cars at a potential danger spot. It's here at Barcelona that the first stage of the new regulations to increase safety take effect. New aerodynamics mean less downforce and therefore slower cornering. But there's a minus for the drivers.
The point is that the car is more slippery, they're more pitch sensitive, and as we expected, a bit more difficult to drive. Nobody of us does see the safety point of these cars. I won't say now they are more unsafe, but they are not safer than they were before, and I think this is the general view.
Amongst the driver changes, the young Scotsman David Coulthard takes the great Ayrton Senna's place in the Williams-Renault team. As the Williams test driver, with a wealth of success behind him in other categories, David's the right man for the job. And Irishman Eddie Irvine is back in the Jordan team after his 3-race suspension for involvement in the enormous injury-free 4-car crash in Brazil. Sadly, the Simtech team's new driver, Andrea Montemini, had an enormous crash in his Simtech Ford yesterday, exiting the last corner at some 145 miles an hour. A hammer blow for the team, already mourning the loss of Roland Ratzenberger. Montemini ran too wide, got onto the grass verge, lost control and went straight into the tar-clad wall. But, as we'd come to expect prior to the tragic Imola accident, his injuries were slight. A broken toe and a cracked heel. Another tribute to the strength of the modern Grand Prix car. The Swiss Sauber Mercedes team only has one driver in Spain, following Karl Wendlinger's accident at Monaco. Happily, the news of the Austrian is good. He's much better, with optimistic reports. And uniquely, the Sauber technicians have done something about head protection before they were required to, with these carbon fibre cockpit fences designed to screen the driver. After 4 races with 12 to go, Michael Schumacher heads the Drivers' Championship by a commanding 30 points, but it's close thereafter, with 4 points covering the next 6. In fact, Schumacher's second consecutive pole puts him in a strong position to equal Nigel Mansell's 1992 record of 5 consecutive wins at the start of a season. And both their cars are numbered red 5. but a very good start by Schumacher, who gets away well. Mika Häkkinen is up there alongside Damon Hill as they go into the first right-hander. Alesi going into the pit exit. Schumacher leads. Damon Hill is in second place. No change to the grid positions as they go into the left and right. Now climbing up to the Curvone in fifth gear. There's Damon Hill. Häkkinen is in third position. That's where he started on the grid. But Alesi is up into fourth ahead of Leto, and in just behind Leto, who is in fifth position, it's David Coulthard. So he's up from ninth to sixth, the young Scotsman. There he is, and he's ahead of Rubens Barrichello and Martin Brundle as they stream round the left-hander. Now they're coming up to the testing part of the course on this first lap, because remember, they've got to thread their way through that tyre chicane. It should be easier than I thought it was going to be, because they're well spread out now as Schumacher leads. Hill second, Häkkinen third, Alesi Ferrari in fourth. Into the chicane corner they are coming now, and round the left-hander. Climb, climb, climb. They're doing about 150 miles an hour here. And there is Schumacher. You can tell him from Leto by the red flashes on the front of the Benetton. And they complete the first lap. Now, we'll see whether Schumacher is going to try and break away. Of course he is. Häkkinen is right with Hill. And Coulthard is just behind JJ Leto in sixth position.
Well, that was good to see a very clean start. That's just what Formula One needed, and no incidents whatsoever in that. That really was excellent.
And Damon Hill is about half a second. There he is, ahead of Mika Häkkinen. You can see the gap. Alesi in the background is fourth. Behind him, it's still Leto in fifth position. Coulthard is sixth. Half a second behind Coulthard. In seventh position, Rubens Barrichello in the Jordan. And this is Martin Brundle in eighth position, battling with Barrichello in the Jordan Hart in front of him.
Yes, Brundle very much caught into a Jordan sandwich there with Barrichello in front, and Eddie Irvine, who's really done very well indeed this weekend. It's his first Grand Prix back after that three-race ban following his involvement in the Brazil accident there, and Irvine just a couple of seconds behind Brundle. Brundle battling away with Barrichello, really, as we saw at the second Grand Prix of the year in Japan. And these two very evenly matched. It has to be said that Mika Häkkinen really has got the measure of this McLaren at the moment.
We are now on lap 11, and Michael Schumacher is leading Damon Hill by 11 seconds. Damon Hill just ahead of Mika Häkkinen third. The battle for fourth between Alesi, Leto and Coulthard continues. Barrichello is in seventh place with Brundle right behind him, eighth. Irvine is right behind Brundle, ninth. Mark Blundell 10th in the first of the two Tyrrells. 11th is Comas in the Larousse. 12th is Gerhard Berger, well down the running. Mika Häkkinen has a look at Damon Hill going into the right-hander at the end of that long straight. You'll remember, many of you, probably one of the most evocative and exciting television pictures of all time, when Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell were racing down that straight wheel to wheel, and Nigel got through first.
Well, this is great driving from Mika Häkkinen there in the McLaren in third place. He really is pressurising Damon Hill hard. And Damon has had things difficult recently. Clearly the situation at Williams' team has been disrupted by events.
Into the pit lane is coming Martin Brundle. It's Häkkinen.
Well, this now looks very much as if, well, it's quite clear in fact that Häkkinen is on a 3-stop routine. Very good pit stop, 7.4 seconds, and that would actually explain why he was able to pressurise Damon Hill so well.
Coulthard is coming into the pits. David Coulthard is coming in from 6th position. Out goes the front jack. Well, this is a long pit stop. A very long stop. He's stalled the engine and they're having to get the starter out at the back. This is sheer inexperience, I think. David Coulthard is used to driving in Formula 3000 races, of course, where a pit stop is not required. The engine is running, stalled again. I remember Alain Prost doing this at Monaco last year. He stalled the engine twice. And that's 3 times for the unfortunate David Coulthard, which won't be doing anything for his equilibrium in the cockpit. Meantime, the battle continues. There's Alesi with right behind him is JJ Leto. Coulthard is out, but that was an enormously long pit stop. And you can see he's trundling out of the pit lane now. Don't think anything's wrong. Remember, there's a 50-mile-an-hour limit. The engine sounds as though it's misfired.
That's Yuko Katayama off in his Tyrrell. Action all over the place at the moment.
Barrichello, he is in 5th place behind race leader Michael Schumacher, 18 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. Alesi is in 3rd place and he's some 20 seconds behind Damon Hill, who is 2nd. Leto is coming into the pits to make his tyre change. And he's just rolling in now as you're looking at John Alesi, and behind him you saw Rubens Barrichello. Now here is JJ Leto, and I remind you that the quickest stop we've had so far was 7.4 seconds from Mika Häkkinen. The seconds ticking away, and out he goes, 7.5 seconds. Well, nothing in it, just 1/10 of a second.
And at the same time that Lacey was stopping, there is Eddie Irvine in the Jordan car, so he's stopping too. Now, we can't be sure at the moment whether or not these cars intend to stop 3 times or just 2. Stopping on lap 18 falls somewhere between the lap 15 and the lap 21 that we would expect for a clear-cut strategy either way. And it may well be that they're just coming in slightly earlier on a 2-stop routine, and the excitement will continue as the race goes on, because until the very end of the race we shall just not know.
You're looking at the man who's in 3rd position on lap 19, and it is Lacey. Michael Schumacher now is 18 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, and Damon is coming into the pits. Well, it's all happening. Let's hope that he can make a better tyre stop than David Coulthard did. Out goes the board. That means keep your brakes on to stop the rear wheels from spinning and the mechanics from being prevented. Now that camera is actually on the fuel filler, and I reckon that Hill took about 9 seconds there, so he's lost 1.5 seconds to JJ Leto, but he ought to get out in front of Rubens Barrichello, who's now gone up to 3rd position, and Lacey is stopping, and it's Schumacher leading. Hill is 2nd. That is Lacey in the pits. Out he goes. Now we're going to have to let things settle down a little, with everybody having made, not everybody, but men at the front having made their pit stops, as David Coulthard fights to recover. We are riding now with the Benetton Ford, and in the lead is Michael Schumacher, who has yet to come in, and his teammate JJ Leto has, as has David Coulthard, of course, as has Mika Hakkinen, as has JJ Leto, Eddie Irvine and Damon Hill. And on this, the 21st lap, Schumacher leads Barrichello, who is now up into 2nd position. The position that it's equaling his highest position, Rubens Barrichello, because he was running 2nd in the European Grand Prix at Donington in the appalling weather last year to his countryman Ayrton Senna. You're looking at the pit lane of Benetton with Flavio Briatore and Joan Villadel-Pra, who is the team manager. And now you look at Michael Schumacher, and into the pit lane comes the race leader, Michael Schumacher. Now, he's got a 44-second lead over Rubens Barrichello. We're with him. You're seeing this long pit lane entrance I was telling you about. He can afford, and his team can afford, his mechanics can afford, his fuel filler can afford to take all the time in the world and make sure that they make no mistakes. That, for instance, the car does not drop off the jack, that the filler does not stick. And because they didn't have to worry, they made a superb stop. 7.6 seconds out at the mandatory 50 miles an hour, followed by the Lotus of Johnny Herbert, goes Michael Schumacher, still in the lead as he accelerates away up to race speed as he joins the track.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert there, we can just see half in the picture in the new Lotus 109, but having said that, it doesn't appear to have made, certainly at this stage, a great deal of difference to the Lotus's rather lacklustre performance at the moment. Herbert qualifying well down and not being happy with the car. In fact, he qualified in 22nd place. And I must admit, I've never really known Johnny to be as dispirited as he was then. Barrichello also, we've just understood, has pitted too. So really the race settling down for what looks like the 2nd, 3rd. And this looks interesting in that Herbert looks to be fighting his way past Schumacher, which seems quite extraordinary.
And not to say incredible, because now the Ligier is doing the same thing. Now Michael Schumacher may be saying, and I very much doubt it, I can let them go because I've got such a terrific lead, but has he got a problem?
He definitely has got a problem. I really cannot see that there is any indication to do that whatsoever. A little bit of that looks unusual. The left-hand side, there was some flames coming out of just the left bank of the engine. Let's have a look here. Now that's one of the Simtech cars.
That's David Brabham spinning in the Simtech Ford. That is David Coulthard going past, but that is significant because if David Coulthard can pass Michael Schumacher the way he has, there is no doubt in my mind. And you can see Häkkinen now. Is it Häkkinen or is it Brundle? It's a McLaren Peugeot in the background anyway. There is David Coulthard, who's just unlapped himself from race leader Michael Schumacher. And if it's Häkkinen behind him, and I think it is. Yes, it is. Mika Häkkinen is trying to take the lead and has done so. So, for the first time ever, a McLaren Peugeot, as opposed to a McLaren Honda, a McLaren Ford, or a McLaren anything else, is leading a Grand Prix. And Michael Schumacher has undeniably and very obviously got a problem in the Benetton Ford. I don't know what it is, but I do remember that Eric Comas, who has a Ford V8 engine, albeit an HB, had a problem this morning.
Now looking at the trace there, we can see that Schumacher is in fifth gear the whole time, and I watch that speed drop. The revs are dropping right down. That looks exactly as if Schumacher is in fact stuck in fifth gear, which would account for his performance.
Of the pit lane goes the Ligier of Eric Bernard.
As you can see that Schumacher is still in fifth gear. He's not pressing that gear change button at all. Clearly he knows there's nothing he can do about it, and it just might be that...
That's Damon Hill. Damon Hill has gone past, and Damon Hill is now up into second place in the Williams Renault. Just look at the way he's pulling away. As Jonathan says, if Schumacher is stuck in fifth gear, he's pulling far too high a gear, obviously. He won't be able to keep the engine revs up, the speed goes down, but he must be satisfied with the other characteristics of the car because he's just soldiering on in the hope of getting points. But we watch Mika Häkkinen, and he is on lap 26. Well, he's on lap 27 now because he's just completed it. I'm waiting for Damon Hill to go through, see what the gap is. It was 3.5 seconds, and Häkkinen has increased it. It's now 4.7. There goes Damon. Third is Schumacher. Fourth is Leto. Fifth is Alesi. Sixth is Brundle. Eddie Irvine is coming into the picture with his teammate Barrichello behind him. And Christian Fittipaldi, as Martin Brundle has a look at Alesi, who holds the inside line, tries to make Brundle drive round the outside. Martin tries to satisfy him, but of course he won't get round there. And coming into the pits is the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen. Now, so here is race leader Häkkinen. He was only 7 seconds ahead of Damon Hill, so I'm watching out for the Williams Renault now to see. He's gone through. Damon Hill is leading in Spain, and Michael Schumacher now goes through, so he's up into second place with that dodgy gearbox or whatever the problem is in the Benetton Ford. Mika Häkkinen is rejoining. There he is coming out, and
now we hear from that Häkkinen stopped not for fuel, just for tyres, which is interesting. And
Damon Hill is on his 32nd lap, leading And you're watching him now.
And so it looks like Coulthard seems to have disappeared. Coulthard comes into the pits. This is what we need to see just how he gets on, and he's pulled straight into the garage. David Coulthard clearly has had a problem there, and he knows it's terminal, and he's pulled out of the race. A great shame there for the Scottish driver having his first Grand Prix. Well, back to Michael Schumacher, because Schumacher is just 7 seconds behind Damon Hill now, and Schumacher is flying once again. 27.1 is totally inconsistent with being stuck in 5th gear.
Well, that's the second Pacific out of the race of Bertrand Gachot, who joins his teammate Paul Belmondo, disappeared a long time ago.
Yes, Bertrand Gachot started his weekend damaging his Pacific car against that new tyre chicane. It looks like he's finished it, damaging the back end of the car against something. The Belgian driver being pretty quick, but being sadly fallible, tending to make quite a few mistakes, and clearly that's just another one of them.
Lap 36 in Spain. Hill, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Leto, Brundle, Alesi.
There's no question we do have a real race on our hands now, because there's Fittipaldi who's out. That's Fittipaldi out in the footwork. He was in 8th position, out in Monaco from an electrical problem on his gearbox when running very well in 4th place. Sad to see him out once again here. And there is his car. Let's see what happens. And we've got a slow motion replay of it. He turns in, and it looks in fact like he's just pulling off the circuit. No evidence of anything other than a mechanical problem there. But we have a tremendous battle back in 6th place, where Alesi is now fending off Blundell. He was fending off Fittipaldi until he dropped out, but also Irvine, with Jordan teammate Barrichello closing that gap.
And Martin Brundle is up into 5th position, so the McLarens are 3rd and 5th, and down to the pit lane for news from Tony Jardine.
Yeah, I've got a smiling David Coulthard with me. Smiling, I hope, David, because you enjoyed your debut, although what happened?
Yeah, I was really enjoying myself out there, because obviously I made a very good start and I was able to run in the point straight away. I felt very comfortable behind Leto, and I knew I was making an early pit stop. But we had an electrical problem which started to affect me from lap 3, and when we made the pit stop the engine stalled, and it was very difficult to keep the RPM up, and then it just got worse the more laps we were doing. And I had a long conversation with my engineer David Brown to decide whether we should keep going or not, and for the safety reasons we decided to stop. So I only made half distance.
Only half distance, but how do you feel physically after your first Grand Prix?
I feel quite warm, and my right foot was going to sleep a little bit, but I think that's normal because your right foot's working very hard. You're either on the throttle or on the brake, but apart from that I was feeling pretty good, and it was a comfortable pace. I just, these are the things you've got to expect in Grand Prix racing. Everything is stressed absolutely to the maximum, so it's been a pretty good debut all in all though.
Thank you, David.
And this is the battle that you're seeing with Alesi in 6th position ahead of Eddie Irvine, the man from Clonnig in Northern Ireland, who finished 6th in his first Grand Prix in Japan last year, driving for Jordan, and he's really giving Jean Alesi's Ferrari a hard time. In fact, it looks to me as though he's going past. He has, because Alesi has gone into the pits. You just saw him peel off there, looking backwards, and so now Eddie Irvine in the Jordan Hart is in the points in 6th position on his return to Grand Prix racing, having been out of the Grand Prix at Monaco, San Marino and the Pacific Grand Prix at Aida. You heard me say that Alesi had gone into the pits. There is the proof, and it's an 8.5 second pit stop for the Ferrari, which goes out. They've got limiters on them now to make sure, one way or another, that they don't do more than 50 miles an hour.
Well, Damon Hill's now been able to extend his lead. He's some 11 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. So clearly Michael Schumacher's car is not in perfect trim. He does have some kind of problem. It would be logical to assume that still rests with the gearbox. Quite what we don't know, although having said that, he's just put in a 26.3, which is within a second or so of his fastest ever lap. So it seems to be that he might have an erratic problem, which is quite consistent with an electrical problem. Sometimes it works properly for him, other times it leaves him jammed in a gear. No doubt we shall hear ultimately at the end of the race.
It's a hot afternoon and a very tiring race. Hill leading, Schumacher second, Häkkinen third, Leto fourth, Brundle in 5th position, Eddie Irvine 6th, his teammate Barrichello 7th. It looks as though by the end of the race both the Jordans could be in the top 6.
And what we don't know at the moment is whether or not Brundle and Hill are going to stop twice in this race or 3 times. Now, if they were going to stop twice, I think it probably would have happened. Sorry, 3 times. I think we would have seen the second stop by now. But both of them I would still expect on a 2-stop strategy to be stopping within the next 5 laps. So we should expect a stop from them very soon, I think.
And into the pits comes JJ Leto from 4th position and looking pretty leisurely about it. He just came, well, it struck me for one moment that he was coming in because of the car language, if you like, as into the pits comes Martin Brundle. Now, he was 5th, Leto was 4th. There's Leto getting out ahead of Martin Brundle, who's just come in behind him, so there won't be any change in their relative positions. Out goes the McLaren of Brundle. Leto has already gone out. Irvine has gone through. Into the pits comes Damon Hill. Now, this is the race lead. He's only 8 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. It could well be, but Schumacher has taken the lead. He's just gone through and has retaken the lead as into the pits for another set of tyres comes Damon Hill, and Schumacher's strategy of staying out and soldiering on is paying off.
Well, we do here. Now there's Jordan. Looks like he's got an engine problem. I think the smoke out of the back of that car. That's the Jordan, I think, of Barrichello. I think it's Barrichello from the colour of that helmet. Sad end there. Barrichello being very impressive in qualifying. And yes, indeed, it is Barrichello because Eddie Irvine has just come into the pits.
Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren. He's seemingly got no problems.
Into the pits comes Häkkinen.
And this could mean that Damon Hill will move back into second position, and Schumacher is coming into the pits as well. He's right behind Mika Häkkinen. So first and second are coming into the pits. Don't worry, I'm looking out for Damon Hill. I'm watching very carefully indeed. Is Schumacher going to get out before the Williams Renault comes through? The answer is yes at the moment. And here is Hill. He may just pass him at the first corner. I think he's actually getting right up to the Benetton now. But he's having to go slow, and I'm pretty sure, I can't see from the box here that first corner, but I'm pretty sure that Damon Hill is now back in the lead, ahead of Michael Schumacher, with Häkkinen right up in the running too. And we're on lap 46, there is Damon Hill. We're on lap 46 in this 65-lap Spanish Grand Prix, and I think the closing stages of it are going to be really terrific. So, provisionally, and I have to wait until he completes the lap, you're looking at the race leader in the sole Williams Renault, Damon Hill.
Of course, don't forget, Damon Hill himself needs to make another pit stop yet. Now, watching Schumacher leave the pits then, he certainly, as far as I could tell, did not leave it in first gear. He gave it a lot of revs, and the car lurched a bit as he moved away. So I think he's got some kind of gearbox problem, but I still feel that it's very hard to believe that he's actually stuck in fifth gear.
Right, there is Schumacher. Look for Häkkinen. Oh, there he is. There is Mika Häkkinen. That's the gap between second and third. Leto is fourth. Brundle is fifth. Blundell is in sixth position. Seventh is Alesi. Right behind him is Irvine. Eighth. Ninth is Martini. Irvine has not been lapped. Everybody else has. So Damon Hill has lapped everybody up to eighth place man Eddie Irvine. And Mika Häkkinen has got his sights set on second place man Schumacher. Mika Häkkinen from Helsinki in his 38th Grand Prix. He's never finished higher than third, and that was the San Marino Grand Prix this year, although he was third in Portugal last year as well. And he's aiming to improve that situation by taking second place from Michael Schumacher, and he won't do it! He won't do it, because it looks to me as though his engine has well and truly blown in vision. Out of the Spanish Grand Prix goes third place man Mika Häkkinen. That will promote to third position JJ Leto. It will promote Martin Brundle to fifth position, and I would hazard a guess that the Peugeot engine, which has been often overheating in the past, may have done so again.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right, Murray. Clearly an engine flow up there for Mika Häkkinen. We know that in the races so far the car has been running very hot. It's hotter than ever. It's the hottest race of the season here in Spain. So the environment is certainly consistent with that car overheating. And after 48 laps of it, it's obviously finally expired.
Well, this looks like being Benetton's finest hour for a long, long time, with JJ Leto up to third position. We haven't seen all that much of him in the race, and we're actually watching a more relaxed Michael Schumacher now, because if he could see Mika Häkkinen in his mirrors before, he certainly can't see him now.
And just in case anybody's wondering, things do look better than some of you might think for Damon Hill, because that's that in all of the rush of pit stops, the confusion on the track of lots of things going on, Damon Hill has in fact stopped a second time, and therefore he is now, we can reasonably expect, on a clear run to the finish. So at the moment, 7.5 seconds ahead of Schumacher, and looking in good shape, just lapping a tenth or so on average faster.
As Schumacher goes through to complete another lap, he's on his 54th now, 7.2 seconds behind Hill, having lapped half a second quicker than the Williams Renault. So Michael Schumacher is still racing at potentially race-winning pace. If he can keep this up, we're in car now. Listen to the engine.
Well, there's absolutely no doubt about it. That was Schumacher, and he was not changing gear. That means that being stuck in 5th gear is, I'm sure, absolutely correct. I take back all I said, all the doubts, but it merely serves to give even greater credit to that entire package. To be able to drive as he is, in 2nd place, virtually challenging for the lead, is absolutely outstanding.
Yes, I am struck dumb in admiration of the German, because it's an incredible performance. This is David Brabham. Is he losing it in the Simtech? No, we weren't looking at that. We were looking at this. And it's JJ Leto. JJ Leto retiring the Benetton. So it is not to be Benetton's finest hour for a long time. They've got one car left in the race.
And that looks like Martin Brundle. That surely must be Martin Brundle. And it looks like he's driven off the circuit, and it'd be very difficult to conclude anything other than, as we suspected. Let's have a look here. There we are, a copybook performance, and indeed, in the backs alight. Now that means that there's some oil that's caught alight there. Oil caught alight, the back of the car well on fire as he pulls off, and he'll want to be very quick to get out of that, although he may well not know that the back end was alight.
With the retirement of Martin Brundle, Mark Blundell is in the points for the first time in a Tyrrell Yamaha.
And it's going to be a very jubilant Tyrrell team indeed. It's been a long time since a Tyrrell has been on the rostrum, and the impressive performances we've seen from Tyrrell this year. At Monaco they were looking good. Here looks to be on the verge of being translated to a firm top 3 rostrum finish, and that would be absolutely superb. This is the man who's the man of the race. This is the man who's going to win if everything goes his way for just a little bit longer.
Well, if you've got your fingers crossed for Damon Hill, you can soon start uncrossing them. I say soon because, as you can see, he has cleared the chicane. He has gone round turn 10 in this 15-turn lap. He's dropping down now to turn 11, that 3rd gear 60-mile-an-hour left-hander. Now he's climbing towards the long looping turn 13, the Banque de Sabadell, up into 4th gear. Then the 130-mile-an-hour blind right-hander. This is it. He is now dropping down the final descent to the final corner of the Spanish Grand Prix, which Damon Hill wins. And there is a surge of excitement and joy in the grandstand around me as Michael Schumacher finishes in 2nd place. And here is Mark Blundell finishing in 3rd place for Tyrrell. His first 4 points finish, and out. He's seen his luck turn. I confirm that the Spanish Grand Prix was won by Damon Hill, with Schumacher 2nd, Blundell 3rd, Jordan Lacey was 4th, Martini was 5th, Eddie Irvine was in the points for Jordan.
sobre el pie número 26, octavo puesto para su compañero de equipo Eric Bernard, con el pie número 25, noveno puesto para Andrea Zanardi.
Non c'è un problema, no, perché uno poi perché i cabli che sta maniera per gli altri sembrano
Well done, Damon Hill. Well done,
A very well-deserved first win of the season for Damon Hill and Williams-Renault. A near unbelievable second place for Michael Schumacher, stuck in gear for nearly 40 laps. Mark Blundell's first points for Tyrrell. Jean Alesi, a rather unimpressive fourth for Ferrari. Pierluigi Martini's first points of the year for Minardi. And a rousing return to the Grand Prix scene for Eddie Irvine. Damon Hill moves up to second in the Drivers' World Championship behind Michael Schumacher. Ferrari drivers Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger well behind at third and fourth, with Rubens Barrichello down from third to fifth, and Martin Brundle and Nicola Larini tying for sixth. Benetton lead Ferrari by 21 points in the Constructors' World Championship as Williams move up to third ahead of Jordan and McLaren, and Tyrrell a worthy sixth. And Grand Prix racing would be in a sorry state if it wasn't for Goodyear, who supply every one of the teams and who today celebrate an incredible 300th Grand Prix win. So, on behalf of Formula One, thank you and well done.